So, hi, this is Rambling on Kate, and having a lazy Sunday, just lounging on the bed. And what started with 3 of my cats is now 6 of them. So this is Miss Pip, and a little story about her, short little info. Pip was a tiny kitten that someone Paul worked with at Rogers Signs almost hit in the road. They just saw this tiny kitten, so they grabbed it and they brought it to the shop, and one of the granddaughters of the owner was carrying it around for a while, and it was really tiny. She was really tiny and underfed, and she was too young to really be weaned. At first we didn't know if it was a boy or girl, so we named it Pip, after the orphan boy in Great Expectations. And we use a lot of literary names. I always have. I miss my Lord Byron and my Percy too, named after Percy Shelley. But that was Pip, and we went ahead and brought her home to take care of her because she was really too young to be handled a bunch by little kids. And little kids are rough. They didn't mean to be, but eventually we found out she was a girl, but she was very small, and she's still of small stature. She's independent, but she became a member of the Thug Brothers little gang. I've got one Thug Brother in here, which is Bob. And I call them that because they like to chase and pick on Pandy and act like little thugs. So she'll chase Pandy, but they're all in here sleeping around Pandy right now. But that's Miss Pip. She's very much a daddy's girl. She's become a little more withdrawn since we got the kittens, which I have. Here is little Miss Della curled up opposite from Pandy on one side of my leg. And Mr. Biscuit is over here laying in the window on a pair of jeans. So, Pip is 3 years old now. This is our biggest cat. He started as one of our littlest ones. He was also another rescue. A friend of ours who has Bonnie's Ferals, before she became a nonprofit rescue, she had this little tiny kitten, and he was alone, and Paul found her, I think, on Facebook, and so we adopted him. She called him Romeo, and we just kept the name because he was so handsome, and we were in love with him, and it was fun to call out, "Oh, Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo?" And so he was our rescue 2 years ago. He's the one that gave me a ringworm. He had it when he came, and we got him all cleared up, and me cleared up. And then these newest kittens most people are familiar with. The outdoor mama, Bella, who was partially blind and deaf, wasn't a great mom. I think she was really old because she really didn't have a lot of teeth. She wasn't a very big cat, and she fed them a certain time of day, but she didn't spend a lot of time nurturing them and teaching them. So at 5 weeks we took them inside and continued to feed them. She's got the phone, that front turned on. And so that's how Miss Della, Dela, because her mom Bella, we didn't know if it was a boy or girl, and we named him Bella after like Bela Lugosi, which is Bela. Turned out to be a girl, but we left her unique spelling of her name, and then Della is Dela, and that's short for Delaware. Because I was going to take these guys to Oklahoma, but they were showing some possible blindness and eye problems. She seems perfectly normal now. We still think little Biscuit Man over there is if not totally blind in his left eye, but partially. It looks normal, but we don't know if it's just congenital. We have no idea, but she has since disappeared. She was acting a little lethargic. We were just about the point we thought we could catch her and get her in a trap without catching any of our other little yard visitors in a trap. We have young skunks and young possums, and everything would come around to eat the cat food. But now there's no cat food back there, so... But she kind of just disappeared, and she may have just gone off to die. Then we have Baby Kitty. He was our first rescue together after I moved here in 2011. We had heard, he's another little tabby, and his name is Lotto, named by one of our high school band teachers, Martha Odom, and we just put it out there that, everyone throw us a name, and whoever wins the name gets a Christmas card from him. And so Baby Kitty was nicknamed Monster Baby because he was just wild. And he was, our neighbors that lived next door had he loves this pink pusheen pillow. For about a week, we had been hearing a small kitten crying back in some brush back behind their property that we couldn't get to. And one day walking back, I was going to just crawl through there, and I saw, I don't know how many ticks on the ground, and I was like, no. But they had started putting out some powdered milk and lured him out. And then one day they had him on the porch, and he was eating the milk, and they called me to come over because I have a knack with cats. And so I came over with a dish towel and scooped him up and brought him home and bathed him. And we started to bottle feed him because he was small, and he's still a small cat, but he just chewed that nipple in half. So he's been here, and he was the first rescue, and he's shy around other people. Our cats rarely see anybody else. But our outside cat, Chaos now, the black and white tuxedo, pretty much raised him. Crawled in his carrier and slept with him at night and bathed him. I like to laugh that he was a year old, and we were still wondering if he's ever going to thoroughly bathe himself, because he was bathed and loved on. And Pandy is 11 years old now. She was born in 2010. She is Chaos's litter mate, and I got them in North Carolina the summer before I moved here. Lord Byron and Percy Shelley, my twins, had passed away, and it took me about a year before I could just relax and open my heart to more cats, because it was really hard. I'd had them, since before I was married, and they grew up with my stepchildren, and it was just really emotional when I lost them. I lost one at 10 years old. He had a urinary tract infection, and I took him to an Memorial Day weekend. I had to take him to the pet hospital that was on call, and they checked him out and gave me antibiotics and said he had a urinary tract infection, but it didn't get better. So when about a week later, I guess, I took him to my regular vet, Dr. Broadhurst in Southern Pines, North Carolina, and that's all he does is cats. He's a cat specialist, and we started with more antibiotics, and they sent his results to NC State, and turned out that he had such a raging kidney infection, so high up in his kidneys, that the vets from the state and my vet said the only way it could have gotten that high up in his body would have been placed there by dirty instruments. Nothing was going to bring him back. He started going into a little coma. His twin Lord Byron, would hiss at him, and he just got lethargic. So I took him to the vet, and the vet said, yeah, he's shutting down. And so I came back later that afternoon and held him while the vet, gave him the final dose, and it didn't take much. Dr. Jack Broadhurst is a great vet. I hope he's still practicing down there. Every day, those were the only two cats I ever had declawed in the front, which he does it surgically, stitches them up, and then glues them. And they never had any residual pain or issues, but none of my cats now have been declawed. For one, it's so expensive, and like Chaos was an inside cat, but then after a few years, he was not happy until he went outside. And I wouldn't want him to be out there without his claws. But anyhow, so after Byron and Percy, it took me about a year, and then my stepdaughter Tegan had a friend who had kittens, and she showed me a picture and said, well, they really need to get these adopted. So I picked the two that seemed the most loving on each other and were playing with each other the most, and that happened to be Pandy here, who's a tortie, and her brother, who's a tuxedo. Except for these rescues that we've gotten like one at a time, like Pip and Romeo and Baby Kitty. I always prefer and recommend people, if they're going to get cats, to get a pair. It cuts down on how often your Achilles tendon gets swiped out from under the couch. It helps them to socialize and get a lot of that instinctual kitten play and biting and wrestling, and they take it out on each other. They learn from each other. They have a companion that's not just a human. It does help them eventually when they need to socialize with other cats. And of course, I've never been able to keep them far away from our adult cats. You know, I put them in a carrier the first few weeks. Usually they're home when I've adopted them at night, especially when they're tiny, and I don't want to, you know, them to get stuck somewhere or hidden somewhere where I can't find them. But after Baby Kitty, we wait a few years, and then there were, our neighbor's cat had 2 kittens that they were just gonna, you know, have to take the ASPCA because they couldn't keep them. And I babysat them when they were little, when my neighbors were doing some volunteer work, and I kind of grew attached to them. And his brother Percy, I don't know why I said Percy, probably because I'm thinking of Percy, but Bob's brother is Soxy, big one that looks just like him but is really heavy and fat. And for some reason he's not in here. He's in one of the dog beds. It's a dog bed, but because it's a big bed, but he's in the dining room. Pip was in there with him, and I heard this crying, and I thought it was, you know, sometimes when they fight and one of the bigger cats, you know, will make another smaller cat cry. But it was just her meowing and crying and tossing around a little bitty mouse that she loves to play with. So that's kind of their stories. Percy and Bob. I mean, gosh, I don't know why I keep saying Percy. I just got him on my mind. And he was a striped tabby like this. But Bob and Soxy were the next pair of rescues. And then they were, you know, almost 5 years old before we got Pip. And then came Romeo. And then the little twins. Our oldest ginger tabby, Miss Lessie, who Paul had before I ever came here, was probably 15 or 16, and she just disappeared one day. She seemed fine, but she had become deaf. So I don't know if she didn't really get in the street. I don't know if she got hurt or hit, and we just didn't know it because there's a big field across cornfield, so if a cat got hit and thrown in there, we wouldn't know. But I have a feeling she probably just went off someplace. She was a loner and passed away. And then of course Luna, the long-haired tortie who was deaf, who just showed up in our yard one day, and we adopted her and took care of her. And when we took her to the vet to make sure she was fixed and get her shots, they said she had already been fixed. So I think she was probably just dumped off. But one morning, sadly, or one evening at night, she was sleeping under Paul's car behind the wheel, and he didn't know she was there, and starting up of the car, the vibration, and it's a Mustang, so it's kind of loud, she didn't wake up, and he accidentally ran over her. And it was a quick, sad death, and she's buried outside. So she and Lessie, our regular cats, were gone, and Bella, the mama of the kittens. And then about, I guess 2-3 years ago, almost now, Tiger, who was a big ginger and white tabby, and he's in some of my Facebook photos and in a montage of photos in Facebook, who was the perfect daddy and companion. He raised this one, and she loved him, and she was depressed for a while after he passed, but he was just the sweetest kitty. He loved Pandy. As he got older, he did chase her, but I think only because the Thug brothers chased her. But he went into kidney failure, and I took him to the vet and held him as he was put to sleep, and then I had to dig a hole and bury him because Paul was away at work, and that was tough. So that's kind of the little bit of a cat story we have right now. I'm going to end this video. It's getting kind of long. But, you know, there have been other strays that have come around outside. And one that had a little cubby out here and he passed away. We called him Old Man. And I think he's the father of Baby Kitty. And probably the mother of these other two. He's definitely the father of these two. They look just like him, but... So he was the Thug Brothers' daddy and Baby Kitty's daddy, and they're all very unique personalities, and I was just talking to Paula that sometimes they're so weird. They all check. Pandy doesn't like to be around any of them, but they're all 6 of them, of the 8 inside are in the bed with me. And say it's Lazy Sunday, and we're going to just hang here while you listen to classical music and watch videos. But that's just a little story of the cats. I'm going to try to do more filming of them this winter. Because, don't hiss at her. She's just scratching herself. See? Pandy, stop being a bitch. Alright, we'll end on that note. Everyone have a great day. Did they wake you up, Romeo? Well, she's a bitch because you guys all harass her. It's alright, little Della. Alright, I gotta deal with this. Bye-bye.